Hey guys, it's Brandon. Welcome to Hello Weekend, and since we're talking about Mr. Action Comics himself, Superman, this week, I thought it'd be fun to do something a little more action-packed. I'm going to be recording segments of the show throughout the day here on Friday so that I can edit it when I get home and put it straight up because I'm running a little behind. So we're going to be talking about his transcendence from his original lore through the radio show. We're going to be talking mainly about the old-time radio show today and how you guys can get into that. So, shit. Fuck. Okay, so I've been thinking about this, and I'm hard-pressed to find another hero whose lore has been affected as much as Superman's by other mediums. If you think about the fact that, say for example, the S on his chest never meant hope, never was representative of the House of El until Marlon Brando wanted to wear an S on his chest and they wrote it into the script and it became Superman lore, it became lore in the comics. The same thing can be said about a lot of elements within the radio program. If you look at the 1948, 1950 Kirk Allen Superman movie serials, those actually referenced the radio show as their source material, based on the radio show, not based on the comic book, based on the radio show. Also, the voices from the radio show were used in that amazing Max Fleischer, cartoon series, which I'm also going to put links to in the description of this video, because they're also in the public domain, which is pretty cool. Okay, so the radio serial ran from 1940, where it was first aired on a New York radio station, I think WOZ is their call sign, or their call letters. It was syndicated by MBS, which gave Larry King his start. They also did the Lone Ranger show, another really good old-time radio show you should check out if you want. And they were a long-time syndicator of the NFL, and a lot of Major League Baseball was another one that they syndicated. Okay, so from 1942 to 1949, the series was syndicated through MBS. In I think June of 1949, the show was canceled, and then later in the same year, either August or October, I can't remember, it was picked up, and there was like a 13 episode run that was done by ABC, and I know those are available too. After that, there's another radio serial that runs through like 1951. It's actually rehashing old scripts with new voice talent, which is kind of cool to listen to as well. Another interesting note is that the format technically changed on the series. Initially in 1942, the series started as a 15-minute series that ran 5 days a week, or more or less 5 days a week, and then it became 3 times a week, 30 minutes, I think in the last season in 1949 before it was canceled. And Kellogg's was the most prominent sponsor of the show, as you see in the thumbnail for this episode. It's Kellogg's Pep cereal. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so the most important thing, the reason why I think that you should check out this series is basically because of all the lore expansion. You're talking about the vehicle for the creation of kryptonite, as well as the introduction of the characters Perry White, and more notably even maybe Jimmy Olsen, whose first appearances were both in the show. If you listen to early episodes of the show, you'll notice that Kal-El's backstory is a little bit different. Basically, he is put into the rocket ship, as he is in the comics, by his parents, and Krypton explodes, all that. But in traveling to Earth, he becomes an adult, and it's hilarious. Like, it's a hilarious concept that you're in a spaceship so long that you become an adult with an amazing moral compass. But that's what they did initially. Obviously, that was retconned out as the series progressed and became more popular, and we're talking about a series that literally ran into the 1950s and parlayed directly into the television series. So the Adventures of Superman and the Superman radio program that was sponsored by Kellogg's, whatever you want to call it, is, well, one, a huge contributor to canon, but also it rolls right into the television show. The television show's canon is the radio show's canon, which is really interesting. So all from the radio show, you got Kryptonite, you got Perry White, you got Jimmy Olsen. In addition to all the characters and the lore changes that they made, some of the signature sayings that go along with Superman, like faster than a speeding bullet, can leap tall buildings in a single bound, this kind of thing, they all came from the radio show, which is really cool. And as you listen through these episodes, you'll actually hear a change to how they're presented, which is really neat too, because it starts off with the leap tall buildings. The lore is different, as I already mentioned, where he just comes to Earth fully grown, this sort of thing, and it all evolves in tandem with the comics, for that 7 years that the show ran, at least on MBS. And then again, the show that ABC did was a little more adult focused. I think it ran on Saturday nights, but it's really cool still. So one episode that gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so, for doing some really cool stuff, was actually this episode called The Clan of the Fiery Cross. Now, that's obviously meant to be an allegory of the KKK. At the time, producers of the series were looking for new villains, and they were approached by a gentleman named Stetson Kennedy. You can look this up, because I'm going to butcher the story, no doubt, but who had infiltrated the KKK and other racist organizations and actually believed them to have some kind of government ties. And as a result, he approached this very popular radio show and said, hey, would you be interested in doing an episode addressing these issues, addressing bigotry and racism and this sort of thing, and how it's dangerous for American culture, and for society on the whole? And they were on board with it. And it's funny because the KKK obviously came out against this episode, but I don't know as anyone puts the KKK's opinion into high of regard, so it didn't really matter. It's a story that just kind of dissects the idiocy of hating a group of people for no apparent reason. I hate all kinds of things, but I hate waiting in line at Tim Hortons, but blindly hating any group of people or anything that you know nothing about, ignorance or hatred through ignorance is a destructive thing. Okay, so if I've sold you on checking out this series, now how do you find them? Well, first of all, this series, as well as the Max Fleischer cartoon series that I mentioned before, is actually in the public domain. So you can check those out by going to archive.org. I've put a link in the description below for this. There's also even a free app, I believe, for Android devices where a guy has curated about 150 episodes of the series. There's all kinds of ways to get into it, but because it's in the public domain, I just want to say you shouldn't pay for them. Copyright laws were a lot different for radio programs in those days, and you want to keep that in mind. These are free for us all to enjoy. Some episodes are going to have a degraded sound quality, but you know what? You're going to get the gist of it, and it's a really great series. I strongly suggest that you check them out, because you're going to get a look at the evolution of Superman in a way that you probably never thought that you could. It's a truly one-of-a-time time capsule piece for this character, one of the most important and most prominent in our cultural zeitgeist. Okay guys, so that's it for this episode of Hello Weekend. I hope you enjoyed this kind of walking around weird format that I'm doing, or that I'm trying. Maybe we'll do future episodes this way, or maybe I'll sit still so that you don't have to deal with shaky cam and me dropping the phone like an idiot. Leave us a comment below. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I think Nick may be even letting me take the reins of a handful of episodes of Debate Comics, which will be fun. We have our weekly New Comic Book Day Top 5. We have Movie Mondays, all kinds of cool stuff. Tell me how else we can get into Superman this week. If you have any ideas for other people viewing this video, please let us know in the comments below. You can reach me at Exploding Earths, and that's on Instagram or Twitter. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I do realize how silly it is that I'm wearing an Avengers shirt while I'm talking about Superman, but deal with it. Also, the phone's the wrong way. Let's take this again. Up here in Toronto, back when I was a kid, there was a station called Chum FM, which I'm sure if you're from up here, then you're probably familiar with it. That and it's still around, but it's owned by different people now. It's owned by a different company. And they used to do at 11 o'clock on Sunday evenings a show called Theater of the Mind. And that show basically would play two, either half hour or three, it would be an hour block. And so, for example, old episodes of Superman, they're about 15 minutes long. So there'd be two of those, and then another show. Say, for example, I really like the Black Museum. That was one that I really gravitated towards. Shadow was on there. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them. I'll post some links to some different ones that I like in the comments, so check that out. Where am I going with this? Okay, Superman.